I am super excited to talk. We haven't talked accessibility much, like almost at all, in my streams and in these events. So I'm really curious to talk more about that, but also just to like, we connected early when I was at Volition, and then you went off, and then we just every now and then kind of cross paths. So I'm really curious to like talk more about all the things you've worked on and what you've been doing, and I'm super excited. So how are you? How are you?
I am good. I've had a really good day. As you may have heard, Xbox bought this like really tiny like indie developer that no one like. They're up and coming. They're called. I think you pronounce it Bethesda.
Right. And it's all of ZeniMax too, right? Like it's all of it.
The whole thing. And as one of my job parts is gaming for everyone, and I'm a gaming and disability community lead, which means I have swag. And so I literally had just tweeted out like, hey, Bethesda people, you can get swag now. Like, just let me know if you want it. And the number of people I had reached out that are like, yes, I want gaming and disability swag. I was like, oh, my little heart. Please.
Yay. That's awesome.
So
very good.
Very pleased. Very pleased.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about Tara growing up. What did you think you were going to do? What did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Oh man, little Tara she had such high hopes and dreams. So I really thought growing up that I wanted to go into like medical research.
Oh?
And so, yeah, not at all related to video games. And I worked really hard in high school. I was like, really, really great student because I wanted to get scholarships to go into a program. And I ended up going to University of Illinois to study biochemistry.
Okay.
And while I was there, I actually quickly found out that I hate biochemistry.
At least you found it out quickly.
I did. Well, so I loved the classes and I loved learning, but like the applications of being in a lab, it's very similar to baking, and I also hate baking. And so I was just like, okay, so I'm going to very, very, very precisely measure some stuff and put it in an oven and then, wait an hour and then see what happened. And it was just like, oh God, no, I can't do this. And so my family didn't have a lot of money. And so I was like, look, I don't want to stay here and pay for this if I already am pretty sure that I hate it. So I dropped out and I left the program, and I was bumming around, literally not knowing what to do with my life. And then that's how I actually ended up working at Volition at the time. So I had left University of Illinois, didn't know what I was doing with my life, was too embarrassed to move back home because everyone had like such high hopes of just like, oh, Tara, she got all these good grades, like she's gonna be the best college student. And then I like very quickly dropped out, and I was just like, I don't want to be around my family right now. I am so embarrassed.
Well, to be fair though, it's different you didn't fail out, right? You just learned this was not the thing for you. Yeah.
No, it was not the thing for me. It was not the thing for me at all. I think, I'm going to be honest though, I think if I stayed, I would have failed out, because I have this really bad habit, and it's only gotten worse as I've become older, is if I don't like something, like it's really hard to get me to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think what would have happened over time is my willingness to invest in the classes and homework would have tanked. And so I probably would have gotten to failing out eventually. But when I started, I was doing fine. I just hated it. But I think that would have, transitioned into less good things.
I get that feel. I'm just like that as well. So I totally understand where you're coming from there. So how did you actually get into Volition? What was that process like?
Absurd. So I didn't know what I was doing with my life, remember? And so I picked up a bunch of jobs in the Champaign Mall. So I was working at what was then EB Games. I was working at Things Remembered, the engraving shop. I think I also worked at like the Chili's restaurant that's over there. So I was working all of these jobs. And while I was over there, I ended up meeting, oh my God, why can't I remember his name? He was an animator on Red Faction Gorilla, Scott. Point is that there was someone working at Volition who I had met, and I had kind of taken to watching his children.
Oh,
I was kind of like his babysitter, and like was just being like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know. Like, I know I don't want to work retail, but I have no plans. And I said something along the effect of like, well, at least working at GameStop, I can get cheap video games. Like showing that I wasn't just there because I liked. I was showing that I was also at GameStop because I like video games. And so he was just like, well, I mean, we have some entry level QA positions open if you think you'd like that better. And I was like, I think I would like anything working in 3 jobs better. I would much rather have one job.
yeah.
And so I applied. And oh my God, I remember this interview. Like, I almost cried when it was over because I was so sure. We're rated M stream, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I was so sure that I fucked this interview up. Like, I remember leaving like almost in tears. Like, oh my God. So I went. Let's see. So I had 2 people interview me, and I don't remember which 2. I don't remember. One of them was like playing like bad cop though. I know which one was playing bad cop, and I don't want to be mean on stream, so I won't do that. Like, sometimes we're different people in interviews, but one of them was playing bad cop and like leaning into bad cop hard, and then it made me feel like, like really stupid. So we were going through, and like there was like a whole bunch of things that you had to do and go through the interview and talk to different people. And then I now know if you did well on that part, they would then bring you into another room and they gave you an old build of the Punisher on Xbox, and they would have you like live QA'd in front of them.
Interesting.
And that's when I really started feeling stupid. So I'm going through and I'm kind of playing it, and I'd be like, okay, so I saw it do this. And then bad cop would be like, okay. And I'd be like, is it supposed to do that? He'd be like, you don't get to know that as a tester. What would you do next? And I'd be like, I would file a bug. And like it was literally, I was just like, I don't do, is it a bug? Should I file? Should I not file? Like, that was the part I left. I was just like, well, there's no way. There's no way I got this job. But apparently I did enough, right? Because I came back and ended up working at Volition until THQ did what it does best, shut down studios.
Oh my gosh. I mean, to be fair, they're not the only company that is good at that, but they are good at it. That is for sure.
They were the best. I think when I got laid off from THQ, it was in a big
yes,
like clump, because I think there was people from our office, like 2 other offices in the US, and then I think like studios in Australia or something got like fully shuttered. So I was part of like a big package layoff.
Yeah. So when I came to Volition, one of the reasons I came there is because they had never had a layoff. In like 20 years, they'd never had a layoff, right? So then now they become part of THQ. The whole, they're this big part of thing. And what happened was THQ got rid of all of the corporate QA. So I guess you were actually part of the corporate QA, right?
This was the worst part about it. So how it was working. So in parts of this process still exist in different states, but like you can only be a contractor for so long before you have to go on like one of those leaves.
Yep.
And basically what Volition would do was hold you for a certain amount of time in like you would get hired through that round. You stay for a certain amount of time. If they liked you, they would try to open up the spots like in Volition proper. And if they didn't like you, then your contract ended, you didn't come back. I was approaching the 1-year mark, was getting rave reviews. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to be able to do this. You'll be one of the people we can make full time, because the head counts were still there. And then that's when we found out that basically my layoff process through corporate was going to get started before Volition was going to bring me over. But at the same time, Volition also had very limited number of slots they were going to be able to keep for internal QA.
Yeah.
So they basically became like a group of people all vying for like essentially the same 4 jobs.
Yeah.
Slots that were open, and like if you were to just like rank us by seniority, I would have been like 9. So there was no way I was going to get that.
Yeah, and they also like at the same time there was a small layoff at Volition proper as well across development. So it was like it wasn't just QA, but QA was a big part, like company wide, of what got shuttered, which sucks because it's so important. But you never want to see layoffs in general.
Yeah.
So then what happened? So you're now in this spot where you're losing one job, the other one's not ready yet, or at least you feel like you don't have the right shot at that one. What's next?
Yeah, so right around that time was actually when I started doing more gaming accessibility work.
Mhm.
So when I was briefly studying biochemistry, I was a little bit short on my credit hours. So I needed to take one more class to get enough financial aid to hit my credits, to get my financial aid, whatever that scenario is. And the class I had taken, funny enough, was actually on video game design. And my professor at the time was the then chairperson of the IGDA Game Accessibility Special Interest Group.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so she talked about accessibility a lot, and I learned a lot from her. And basically, I mean, there's not another studio anywhere near Volition. It's this island in Champaign, and you've either got to go, 3 hours to Chicago or go somewhere else. And so I was like, well, immediately I don't know what I'm going to do, but in the meantime, I could at least like do stuff with her. And so I started working with her. My immediate plan was actually go back to school to go back into game dev. And then that kind of ended up going sideways because like apprenticing under her, there was a very specific moment where in class I was trying to negotiate with my teacher taking time off to go speak at GDC, and I was like, maybe I should just drop out because if I so it was a very, because the knowledge on game accessibility at that time was so low, like I was already an expert in the field by like default because there like were two of us, right? Like, and so I was like, you know what, I've already worked in a game development studio for a year. I've learned some useful things, but I'm already going to these, like, I'm already forming connections that are more valuable. And so I was doing that. And really my plan was like to occupy the nonprofit space till I figured out a longer term goal. But then I ended up dating Max, and he had moved to Florida. And so then I moved to Florida. And then we got married, and while I was down there, I just found another studio to give to, and ended up becoming a QA lead for Firebrand, which was a studio and publisher, managing like 3 separate studios and like 8 titles at a time for all the QA for them, from everything from like Nintendo 3DS or whichever thing was out at the time to console games. And it was just like, it was a quick lesson in management and resourcing.
So what year are we talking about roughly right now?
That would have been 10 years ago.
Okay.
I know that because Max and I's 10-year anniversary is next month.
Oh, there you go. Nice. All right. And so was he down there? Was he already working with Dustin at that point? Is that what at ZG?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So he had, after Volition, I don't think he would have been laid off at the time within the Volition thing. He made the choice to kind of go out on his own. And so, yeah, he ended up going down to ZG, working with Dustin. And then he was one of the mentors for people in the program at Full Stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you followed a man to Florida. So
I did.
No, but that's good, right? So like it's interesting to me how you kind of by accident got a connection to get you into games, right? And then you spend some time doing that, and then your education that was not in games also kind of led you into games, and so now you're like within a year you're in, right? And you've already found a niche, which is crazy. So now you're in Florida, you're doing QA stuff, which you spent some time doing. Were you doing anything on the accessibility side at this time as well?
I was. So while we were in Florida, I was really lucky that I actually became the next chairperson of the Game Accessibility SIG in the IGDA. So the former chairperson, she was stepping down. She had a lot of medical things happening. And so they did a vote to vote for the steering committee. And then I got voted in and I was super excited. And then I was floored because the steering committee then does another vote to pick within themselves the chairperson. And then I got made the chairperson, and I was the, I don't know if this is still true, but at the time I was the youngest chairperson ever for for any IGDA SIG. I'm definitely still the youngest for the game accessibility SIG, but I don't know about like all of the SIGs all up. And I got to do some really, really cool projects. One of my favorite ones that I got to do was actually, and then this was like a huge deal. So in Australia, the state of Victoria, I guess they call them states there. I guess I don't actually know. Province, principal.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Whatever Victoria is, that locale, they have a grant program for media, the arts, that sort of thing. And they had added video games as something that was considered an art and you could get funding for through this grant process. And they had wanted to, in their application process, put in stuff about accessibility. So like if you were considering accessibility in your proposal to get funding, that was something they would take in consideration. And so I actually got to lead the project that worked with Film Victoria and the SIG to like craft all of that and release it. And that same process was then later picked up by a larger body in Australia, and then later Creative Europe. And so that was really cool. It was a really really busy time for the SIG. I just came in with like, probably because I was like too young to have any idea about like work-life balance. I just came in and was just like, I'm doing all this stuff. Like we didn't have a website. I was like, we're building a website. We didn't have all this. Like I just did everything. Nice. I could figure out how to do it. I would do it.
That's the right way to be. That's how you make your way in a place too, right? Just identify problems and fix them. Like a lot of times people don't even know that it was a problem, and now you've came in and identified and solved it. That's good. That's good.
I mean, really, the thing I was able to do there, especially because like I was newer, was like see those pain points easier, and then really just make like quick wins. I didn't even have to do that much, but they were just things that like no one had taken the time to do. That literally just being like, "Hey guys, there's a website now where you can easily find how to contact us." Like, wow. The bar was low for success, but I nailed it.
Nice. So at this point you're still in Florida and you're doing this?
Yes.
Okay. So how long was that, and like what was that role like for you?
Let's see. I stayed in that role until I ended up working at Irrational Games. Basically, I think we were in Florida for over 2 years, maybe like 3 years. As it turns out, I noticed someone mentioned in your chat that it's so painfully hot in Florida, and the humidity. Yes,
sure is.
And I hated it. I hated it so much. I did not do well adjusting to Florida, and I wanted out. And so Max made the mistake of saying that if I could find a better job in a cooler climate, that we would move for it. And within 6 months, I'd gotten a job in Boston.
All right.
So, we ended up moving, and unfortunately, Irrational, it was definitely a different time in terms of communication with, game devs and the public. I don't know if it was ever like this for you, but a lot of the studios I worked at, they were like, don't tweet anything, don't have thoughts, like, don't like a game, doesn't matter. Like, unless you're going to give a game a 10-star review, you better not say anything.
Yeah.
Give a game 9 out of 10, you may have ruined a business deal. Like, so like you couldn't say anything. And I ended up being put in a really tough position because I was advocating for accessibility features that BioShock Infinite didn't have. And at one point I had to actually cancel a talk that was supposed to be given, I think it was like a school or something, because the studio was like, someone at the studio, I can't like pinpoint a person, but someone was just like, you know what, maybe we shouldn't say that games should have these things, because if not, you're excluding players with disabilities, and then we don't have them. That looks bad on us, rather than
sure, it does, but
right. And so it literally became impossible to do my job because you are you are a figurehead, and so you have to talk and you have to say these things. Like, it may literally just be a message that the SIG had put together collectively, but it would get tied to me in such a way that they weren't comfortable about it, and they were just like, "You're done," which was really unfortunate.
Was that during Infinite? Were you working there during Infinite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there during Infinite. Whew, that was a project.
Yeah. So, did you know Drew Holmes before you went there, or did you?
I did.
Okay.
I did know Drew Holmes before I went there. Nice. Or before he went there. Before either of us were there.
Gotcha. I didn't know if you guys had connected while you were at Volition or not. He's somebody I got to reach out to come on the stream as well. So.
He's doing so well.
Yeah, he is.
And his little baby's so cute.
Yeah, sure is. Good for him. He's up in the great north, so.
He is. But yeah, it was, there was a few Volition nights that were up there. Clint Bendrick and I like briefly overlapped there. And Drew was there. I'm trying to think of who. It's one of those things, like when you stay in the industry long enough, like you don't remember who you worked with where.
Yep, it can bleed together, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially there's a couple people I've worked with multiple. Okay, so Jay Goldberg, we have worked at 3
oh my
studios
gosh
together.
Wow.
Like, so we were both at Volition, we were both at Irrational, and then we were both at Ready at Dawn. I feel like there may have been another one, but you just like, you follow, like we literally followed each other around the country on that one.
Wow. That's 3 that's not extremely uncommon, but still is a lot, like that's crazy.
The location, like I feel like if it'd been like 3 in the California area or something, like okay, but like no, it's Illinois, Massachusetts, and California.
Yeah,
like,
that's everywhere. A big difference. Was there any connection between you working together? Like, did one of you bring each other there, or did it just happen to happen?
It just happened.
That's crazy.
I think the last time he saw a job posting and knew I was there and reached out to me, but I don't even think he knew that I was at Irrational when he came. But yeah, like none of it was like planned or on purpose. It was just like, oh yeah, well, welcome. I had no idea you started.
I randomly ran into him at, I think it was PAX East. I went to a party for Alienware, and he was just there, like, demoing a game, and I was just like, man, like, had no idea. Like, it's crazy how you just run into people in the industry sometimes. So...
it really is.
All right, so you're at Irrational, you're finishing up your time there. What comes next?
So... it had become kind of obvious that something weird was happening at Irrational. This was before the studio closure. There, in case you're ever wondering what red flags may be at a studio. So if all of your open positions you stop interviewing for.
Yeah.
If the emails about your next project stop coming. This is my favorite. If the building you're in is literally scheduled to be condemned and they haven't told you where your office is going.
Oh, yeah.
We were getting all these updates about where we were going to move the studio to and everything. Because the building we were in was literally decrepit. And like I said, I think it's been torn down now. And then all of a sudden they just stopped telling us where we were going to go. And so I talked to Max and I was just like, I've got a real bad feeling about this. I think that we should try to find other jobs before this studio gets closed and the market gets flooded.
There's also a feeling too, right? Like you can kind of feel it in the air. It's really strange and very unsettling.
Yeah, and like I got that feeling, and so basically Max and I did a scramble of just like, we will both put out job applications and we'll just kind of go with whoever hits first.
Okay.
And so Max ended up getting hired at PlayStation. And so we moved out to California. And then about 3 months later, Irrational closed its stores. So the feeling was right. And no, that was when I decided that, you know what, I was going to work on my personal projects.
Okay.
And, you know, I like to think that I'm a great producer. I'm a great PM. I cannot time manage for myself. I can't. I accomplished like nothing. I had enough savings. So I was like, I have 3 months where I can work on something and then, you know, do whatever I think the next step is. And I literally have nothing to show for it. All I know is I developed an online shopping habit, which is not great when you don't have any income, because you're supposed to be working on your side project.
Yeah.
And yeah, no. So I was like, well, I should just get a job, because clearly I will never be the person who starts their own indie studio, because I can't. It's not working for me. And then I ended up going to Ready at Dawn. I wasn't looking for another QA position because I'd done a lot of system design work. So I wanted to find a system designer job. But it actually, who was it? Michael Clark from Volition.
Yeah.
He reached out to me and he was like, hey, I know that you want either a designer or producer job, but we're hiring a new QA manager. You would get to build the process from scratch, hire the team from scratch. The studio's great, so I know it's not the role you're looking for, but I think you'd be really great at it. And I talked to the team and I talked to the studio, and I was like, you know what, this wasn't the role I was looking for, but I think it is the role for me. And it ended up being a really great team, a really great project. And yeah, that was the Order 1886.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And so wait,
Yeah.
where was that? That was at Sony? Where was that one done?
Yeah. Ready at Dawn.
Ready at Dawn. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that is one of those games.
Sony published it.
Yeah. That is one of those games that I heard a lot of great things about. I haven't played it yet, but the only criticism I ever heard was it was too short. But everybody that I know that played it loved it, and it's on my list of like 1,000 games that I need to play still. But I heard very good things about it.
I really loved working on it. It's a very narrative story driven game, so it isn't a very long game. And I was very much looking forward to kind of investing in it as a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is actually what led to me leaving Ready at Dawn. Was you know, our next project wasn't going to end up being another Order game, and which I was really, really bummed about, because at the end of the Order 1886, I'd been doing some design work with the design team, and like we were in the process of like, yeah, well, on the next title, like, here, we'll start ramping you up, you can flip over. But it ended up not happening, and so there was a pivot to VR games, and that was when I found out I get super motion sick.
Oh, like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
wait, what level of technology are we talking about at this point? This would have been Vive time, like early, or are we even to that yet?
I don't. Hold on. What year did the Order come out? Internet, tell me.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. When was the release date? So this was 2015. So whatever tech we had in 2015.
I think the Vive came out a year later. Yeah, it came out a year later. So then we're looking at maybe original Oculus, but we're not quite to like real home. Well, unless you had you might have had dev kits for something like the Vive.
Dev kits.
Yeah, so it could be this technology then. Yeah.
I don't remember. I just remember how learning that I get really motion sick in VR, and then not wanting to do any more VR titles.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really trying to figure out like how to best work in VR, knowing I would never like. I mean, you can work in VR, and then instead of seeing like putting the headset on, you can have a display with like those two circles on your screen. Like, but I was like trying to figure out how to like make that work for me. Mm-hmm. and everything. And I actually got contacted by a friend who was over at Turtle Rock on Evolve, and who, funny enough, I met when I was in Orlando. Like we were like not through, like, she didn't work in game dev. She was actually a student. We ended up just becoming friends, and then we stayed in contact and then she wanted to work in video games and then ended up being a community manager. So she's over at Turtle Rock. Knows that I'm
Wait,
going.
who is that?
This is Jess Damhurst.
Okay. Okay. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, so we just happened to become friends outside of the game industry. And then back before she was in it, and then so she was at Turtle Rock, and they were hiring a new live producer, live ops producer, and she was just like, Tara, you would be perfect for this. Like, come on down. Also, it's not VR. You won't get sick. And so I ended up going over to Turtle Rock to work on Evolve, and I loved that project. I loved Evolve so much. The community was great. I got to do so many fun things while working there. I ended up kind of like, although I was live ops, I ended up like absorbing like our design and balance team, and then later like absorbing our marketing and comms team as all of their producers, because they were all so connected in the pipeline. It was just like, look, I just need to let me just own this whole pipeline end to end, because this is not easy handing this stuff off. And working with the community marketing team, oh my god, so much fun. Like, I got to be in silly videos, I got to be on live streams, I got to go to all of these events that I never got to go to before. The community was great. Like, I got fan art for me. Like, I was just like, oh my god, like it was a completely surreal experience. And then, but it was also the first studio that ever okay. So Chris and Phil, the head of Turtle Rock Studios, are amazing humans who I love so much. So Evolve had some accessibility challenges within it, and I was like, okay, we need to do some accessibility stuff. And so my boss was like, I totally support you, Tara, but the final call comes from these guys. So here's what we're gonna do. Get together a proposal. I'll make sure you get time on their calendar, and we'll figure out how to get some of this accessibility work into the game. We'll get it patched. And I worked so hard on this deck about like, here are the features we need, and here's the resources, and here's the timeline and the work next schedule, and blah, 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 blah. I invest so much effort. I get on like slide 2 that's just like, why accessibility is important. They're like, yeah, we should just do this. I'm like, what? You don't even know what I want to do yet. And they're like, yeah, well, we don't want to be shitty people. Like, we want people to play our game. So like,
okay, I love that you said that, right? Because I think it's really interesting. So I don't know if you and I really talked about this, but I'm colorblind. That's why I'm wearing these Enchroma glasses, right? So accessibility, as far as, I deal with it as far as colorblindness goes. And over the years, every project I've worked on, there's been a lot of like, hey, I'm pushing for it, right? Because most people don't think about it, right? Developers don't think about it unless they have to. But once they do, they realize, oh, wait, of course we should do this, right? We need to make this accessible for as many people as possible, So I love that. I love that was the general thought was like, oh yeah, this obviously we should do this. That means you're people that care. Good. Yay. That's great.
Yeah. So I was both like really excited that they were just like, yeah, make it happen, Tara. And then I was like devastated. I worked so hard on this presentation. We literally didn't even go through it. They were just like, yeah, you're fine. Just go. And I was just like, okay, well, I mean, cool. I worked really hard on these slides. There's like transitions and like some sweet formatting, but cool.
I mean, that's work that, while was important, it ended, it's fine, right? You got the result you wanted. It's good.
I did.
That's funny. So now at that point, Abby Heppy was still there, right? At that point, or no? Community.
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So I was trying to remember if she had left before that point or not. She's at Media Molecule now, but I was curious if you guys had overlapped at all. So you're there for this is on Evolve we're talking about, and then accessibility stuff. You're like, here's what we should do. And they're like, all right, cool. Let's do it. Now, what stage of development are we talking about right now?
This was actually, the base game was out and we were adding updates for the other characters. So this is actually like post-launch, which is the worst time to do accessibility, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge challenge. I ended up, there were some things went super simple. So like one of the things I recommended was like, hey, we should have remappable controls. And like we got really lucky in that we already had it on keyboard. And at one point, someone had already made the assets for remapping on controller, and it just didn't get used because they couldn't figure out how to make it quite work. So like I just had to come in and be like, oh well, this is what the design should be, and they're like, okay, great. Well, technically the code's like 90% there, and we already have the assets for the buttons, and so like that one just like happened magically. And normally remappable controls are one of those things that if you go to retrofit, it's like incredibly hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that was super hard was colorblind mode. Of all of the things, we had this huge problem with not so much our UI, but our in-game effects. Like, you know, for example, Markov's gun, you would charge it before you could fire, and like the gun would change colors to show when it was ready to fire and stuff. And so it was just like, okay, well, people can't tell that. Or Hank had his orbital, and that one, it was red, but we had like a swampy map. So you could literally sometimes not see the marker in the world. And so we ended up having to go through, and we didn't want to change, like redo all of these designs. And so it's like, okay, well, the only thing we can do is make three additional versions of these visual effects to make them colorblind friendly. And so everything we identified as an issue, we created 3 additional versions of.
Oh my gosh.
Which is absurd. But what ended up happening and what was great about it, so the VFX artist, her name is Lindsay. She's actually now a fashion designer, which is awesome. She would see the concept art for new characters coming down the pipeline, and she knew what caused us to have to make the additional 3 versions of all the old stuff. So things would get to her and she'd see it and she'd be like, oh no, I am not making this 4 times. And she would send it back to concept and get them to change it before she started. So it was one of those things that after we did it and she realized what would literally cause her more work, she was just like, no, I won't even start working on that. Like, you guys fix your design and then I'll build it. I'm not making this 4 times.
Interesting. So I love that you've brought this up, because UI is something that's generally ready for this, right? Because like it's particular color palettes that you can swap based on choices, right? Like we could set in a menu that this thing is going to change. But when you're talking about effects, character colors, you know, things that are on the model, those things are usually built and baked, and you know, it's a part of it, right? So you would almost have to develop a system that's ready for multiple palettes, right, that you can change based on that colorblind mode. So it sounds like you didn't quite get to the mode where she's like, oh, we can put these different palettes based on the mode. It was more of like, this is going to cause a problem. We need to at least do something that's more friendly before it gets into the game.
Yeah, I mean, the goal, it was literally more cost effective for us to just make it something that, like, we developed that system where we could have different palettes, but it was literally cheaper and really a better experience if we just made it to where we didn't have to add it into this palette system. So it kind of became our like mantra of like, if we don't have to plug it in, the system is there as a backup if we really can't think of a colorblind friendly way to do this. But you know, let's not do that unless we really need to.
And having an advocate at the right place is exactly what you need to get people thinking about it correctly, right? That. I love that someone was like, this isn't going to work. People need to rethink about the way that they're doing this and make sure it's effective based on this new criteria. I love that. And I love that that's what you think about. So that's good.
Thank you.
So, okay. So you're there through now. At what point did you get there in development? Were you there as it was finishing development and then you're there at the end, or were you there through a lot of the process?
I started like literally the game is launching and I show up.
Okay, cool. All right. And so, okay, that's really interesting, because you don't think about this stuff coming in at that point. So that's really, really cool. Now, how long were you there?
I was at Turtle Rock for over 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. It all blends together.
So tell us a little bit about like what that time was like. So you're at this point where you're making these, you know, evolving changes on this changes on on the game. What was that kind of flow like? How long was that going on for you?
It was pretty much the entire time that I was there. We managed to do a few things that I absolutely loved, like that update. But we we had been releasing regular title updates on all platforms, which would have new characters and balance changes, new maps, that kind of deal.
Hmm.
Your standard title update stuff. Um, but we basically were like, hey, we think our title would actually, and probably should have been from the beginning for reasons I won't go into, a free to play game.
Mm.
We think that what we need to do is make a free to play model, give us a chance to build it on PC. We'll also do all of these quality of life updates. We'll re release it and then we'll go from there. When we went to do that re release, which became Evolve Stage 2, um, we did a massive evaluation, like full scale of like the game in terms of, I mean, everything: usability, playability, accessibility, and basically made a game plan to make it even better. And we got to change. There were so many little things in the game that I was just like, oh, we could just make that like just like a hair more accessible, but we're not going to touch it. At this point, it was just like, no, everything is open. Like, what do you want to touch? Let's figure it out. We've got the time. We've got the budget. Like, if we're going to relaunch and launch big, we need to make it
Yeah.
as inclusive and accessible as possible. So we got
Yeah.
to do a ton of updates. And I absolutely loved that. And we had such a unique connection to our community. It was one of the first titles I ever worked on where I really felt there was a constant flow of communication between our players and the dev team. And honestly, it was so different from my previous jobs that were like, don't say anything ever.
Yeah.
When this one, it was just like, why aren't you posting in the forums? Like, you should be in the forums so people know who you are. Like, let them know the things you like. You made a change and they don't think it's a good idea. Like, tell them why you made that change and see if they still agree. Like, literally opening up the internal thought process of why we were doing things to players. I'd never done it before. It was like revolutionary. And then literally be like, hey guys, so I know you guys thought that you wanted this gun buffed, but instead we changed this other number that you guys don't think is related. Here's why they are related. Here's why that'll actually solve the problem you're addressing. Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And like, that was so cool. I loved it.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like most people and players, they respond to a symptom, right? They're like, I don't like this, and here's why I think it's a problem, right? And us as developers, we have to continue to take all that feedback and bring it together and be like, all right, 70% of our players don't like this thing. Most of them say it's because of this, but we have to actually evaluate it along with everything else, right? And be like, what is the thing they're actually responding to? What is it that we need to fix? What's the best way for us to fix that? And a lot of people don't understand that the fix we've put is an actual fix, not just fixing a symptom. And sometimes you do have to explain it, right? And so that's really interesting. So did you start doing that? Did you go in and like try to help people understand?
I did all the time. We both did it in our forums, like literally going in and into the threads and explaining it or making posts. Or we would have live streams where we would cover topics where a lot of people would have questions about a specific thing. And really, the other thing that was really great, like having this dialogue with the players and why we were making choices or why we were prioritizing one thing over another. We were really open about like, hey, we're doing some of this accessibility work. This is why we should do this over some of the other stuff you guys are asking. And then the gamers got on board. They're like, oh, yeah, I mean, we want everyone to be able to play games. Like, I mean, the more people that play games, like the faster our matchmaking will go, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And they became invested in it with us. One of the coolest things that actually happened during this period of time is so during this time, my friend and I, Ian Hamilton, we decided to spin up our own conference because I guess both of us had too much free time. Inaccurate. We spun up a conference called GAConf, which is just short for Game Accessibility Conference, because neither of us are original. And we were looking for sponsors. And so my friend Shane, she and I were working together, and we'd been streaming Evolve and talking to the community, and we'd gotten a collective name of Shara, Shane, Tara, Shara. And so we did a fundraising stream. We're like, hey guys, we want Shara to sponsor the conference for game accessibility. And so we had a fundraising stream. We're literally just gamers who mostly knew us from watching us talk or play Evolve, came and gave us enough money. I think we came in as like a bronze sponsor on the conference, and that continued. The next year we did the same thing, and we came in at a higher sponsorship level than Sony.
Oh, wow.
just from literally like being like, hey guys, this is why accessibility matters to us.
Yeah.
Like, help us teach other developers how to do what we're doing here. And it was amazing.
Wow. That is fantastic. I love that. So, okay. So what was next? Like you were spending all this time on Evolve. Was there another project that you worked on there, or?
No, so at the studio, I was fully dedicated to working on all things Evolve.
Okay.
Which, because I had absorbed like 3 teams, was actually like pretty busy. 3 teams is a lot of teams.
That is a lot of teams.
A producer for, but it kept me busy and it was happy. So that was my main project there. And then my accessibility project was really getting the conference going.
Okay. And so what was that like? Like that's a pretty big split of time, or at least the effort, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah, the conference really came out of need. Basically what was happening was people would come to other prominent accessibility people and be like, hey, I want to learn more about accessibility. And we were becoming these kind of like choke points for information. And so we'd be like, oh, well, we should go give like a GDC talk or something. So there's some kind of resource or asset or video that we can point people towards so they can learn about a topic. And so we had started doing these GDC talks, and basically we got in this feedback loop of we would submit pretty in-depth talks on accessibility to GDC, and then we would come back and be like, hey, we want you to talk about accessibility, but like, can you dumb it down a bit? Like, can you do intro stuff? And so people would come to these sessions already bought in on accessibility, kind of above this kind of 101 level, wanting to learn more.
Okay.
And the talks at GDC just weren't there. And then we have this double factor of GDC is not a very accessible conference. They have a lot of issues, even right now in the GDC Vault, for example. They don't subtitle any of their videos. So if you're a deaf developer, you just can't watch the videos.
Oh, okay.
One time I emailed them and I was like, hey guys, I have a talk specifically about the importance of some of, audio stuff and accessibility and, deaf gamers. Can we like get some subtitles on that? They're like, no. I was like, cool. Well, can you put it on YouTube and then we can get you subtitle and we can subtitle it there? And they're like, oh, but we have this like marketing plan and we didn't want to move your video from the vault to YouTube. And I was just like, okay, well, like literally my talk is on accessibility. Like I just want my accessibility talk to be accessible.
Yeah.
So I ended up fighting with them. Finally got it moved to YouTube. And I was like, okay, so it just has the automated captions, and automated captions for tech talks are really bad. We use so much jargon, and especially in video games, we have a bunch of like made up words and names and stuff that like the captions just were getting wrong.
And they're inconsistent.
Like, hey, exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, hey guys, I would love to have real captions on this. And they were like, well, we're not going to do that. If you want to do that, you can add them. Like, it's an hour long.
Interesting.
So I ended up paying someone to professionally caption my talk because GDC didn't want to do it.
Wow. So, I am a little shocked by that. That is very interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So it was, so the conference is inaccessible and they weren't letting more than basic accessibility level talks get through. And so Ian came to me. We were just kind of like having essentially a bitch fest about it. And he was just like, but what if we make our own conference? And I was like, haha, like, yeah, good jokey. And then like he followed back up on it. And I was like, fine, I guess we're doing this. And so we literally spun up our own conference dedicated to game accessibility where we can go deeper than like accessibility is good and here are some basics, because like there was a million of those talks out there already. Like, we have talks of, one of the Outer World devs came and be like, hey, here's literally in Unreal the values I was changing to make our menu scaling work. Like that was the kind of stuff that people were looking for, and that wasn't getting through at all.
Interesting. Yeah, like because like we were talking about, it takes real architecture to make accessibility scale and work. Like that's man, that is really interesting. Yeah, I'm a little shocked at that GDC perspective on that. So hopefully that's getting better. Hopefully that's getting better.
They're slowly making improvements and becoming more accessible, but just I've stopped trying to get my hopes up. This is a true story. So there was a talk. Ubisoft was having a panel on accessibility, and Ubisoft paid on their own to have an interpreter come to the panel because GDC doesn't provide interpreters. I think maybe you might be able to get an interpreter now, but in the past there was no way to get an interpreter.
Okay.
And one of our panelists, they use a wheelchair, and all of the stuff are on the stages that are elevated. And so this may be more on the Moscone Center than GDC because I don't know who handles this part of the logistics. So we told them like, hey, we're going to have someone in a wheelchair. Like the stairs are not working. They're
Right.
like, oh, it's fine. We have a like a little lift thing that they can use to get up on the stage. And so we get there before the panel, and they had put a lift there, but they'd never tested it. It was broken.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So the panel on why accessibility is important and you should think about it started with us literally lifting a person in a wheelchair onto the stage.
Really?
Yep.
All right. So, I mean, that's also kind of perfect in a way, right? Like, but man, that really sucks. That is not cool at all.
That kind of thing happens all the time. There was another time at PAX where another one of my panelists, he uses a power chair, and we, again, knowing what had happened at GDC, we're like, we're going to get there really early and go see the room and test stuff. And we get there, and there's nothing. There's not a lift. There's not a ramp. And we're like, well, what are we supposed to do? And so then we go to the event staff, and they're working on it. And the thing you have to know about wheelchair ramps is like the what's the right word? The angle, the steepness matters.
Yeah.
Like if you make it too steep, they literally can't get up it. They're like, oh yeah, well we were just gonna do this thing, and it's just like power chair literally would not be strong enough to like do that mountain climbing adventure that you're getting ready to stick him on. So luckily, because we went there so early, we managed to get them to build like an actual ramp that you could use and everything. But that stuff happens all the time. Like even if you tell people, here are literally my requirements to be on stage to talk about why you should think about my requirements, and they won't listen. They won't pay attention.
Oh my gosh. It's still such a out of sight, out of mind thing, right? Like it requires people to bring it up in order and this is why we have, legislation that we do and rules for ramps and things like that to make people think about it. But man, they still don't. Like it's not at the forefront of people's minds enough. And honestly, without people like you doing this, it won't be, right? So I'm super proud of you and I commend you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, where are we at? We are at Turtle Rock. What was your time, like the end of your time there? Like what had you move on from there?
Funny enough, the next project that we were going to work on, it was transitioning, and then they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do, and they did a pivot to VR. And I was like, oh no, not again. And that's why I left Turtle Rock.
Oh my gosh.
I can't do it again.
Well, you knew that right away though, right? Like as soon as they made that choice, you knew you had to start thinking about something else.
I did. I knew. I was just like, I can't. This is not going to work.
Unless you wanted to be the advocate for people that can't do VR. Like
it's like the problem is what ends up happening is that people will go and they'll build something. They'll be like, well, I don't think this will make people sick. Like, I think I did okay. Especially in like the early days of VR, people were still trying to figure out like the guidelines for what would and would not make people sick. Like now, if you wanted to make something, there's a lot more information on like what creates that nauseous feeling, how to avoid it in video games. But like that was still early in development back then, right? So what ends up happening, people will build something, think it'll be okay, and then they'll be like, oh, Tara, you just try. I think it's okay. Just let me know if it's not. And like, you only fall for that trick so many times. And then you stop saying, no, I'm not going to test it. I'm not going to test it. Because if you're wrong, I might throw up. Like, that's, you know?
What do you mean probably going to throw up, right? Like,
I'm probably going to throw up. There was one time, so this one was actually at Ready at Dawn. It was before, oh my God, what's the game called? The space game that Ready at Dawn put out on VR. I feel so bad that I can't remember this, but it was like early technical demos for that game, and the dev was like, oh, we have like a jump button, and they were like, well, Tara, look around the space. And I'm looking around the space. They mentioned the jump button. Tell me what it is. I hit the button, and I don't know what it was about that animation, but I end up like ripping off like the headset and literally grabbing a trash can because I was like, oh God.
Oh,
like I
wow.
thought it was coming up right then. Most of the times it's not aggressive like that. Like most of the times I'll just kind of feel a little nauseous, and then if I keep pushing it, like it'll get worse. That one was like instant. I was just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna vomit right now. I'm so sorry. That would have been all over your desk, but at least now you know, don't do that one. That's not good. Don't do that.
Wow. I always hear that a lot of times it's when you can't see your hands or your feet, like that tends to like give you nothing to ground with. But I don't know if that was the situation you dealt with there, or if you even remember. But
for me, it's when things move, if I don't move, or if things move vertically.
Oh.
In certain ways. So like, I'm trying to think of good examples. So like going down a ramp that's smooth, I'm okay with.
Okay.
But if I were to like walk off a ledge and drop, that makes me feel really sick. Or if the like you can move like things this way, but if you for some reason try to change the vision on me where you make it go up a little or down a little or side a little, and I don't physically move my head, no.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
It has to be locked in this plane, and you can move it like this. Okay. But if you move it like this, I'm out, and if you rotate it, I'm out.
Oh, that would get me, I think, and I'm not even really I don't really have a problem with it. That's
like roller coaster things, I can't do those.
Oh, really? Okay. Huh.
No,
all right.
It's because a lot of times it will, in effort to like, it makes sense. So if you're in a cart and you're going up, like they'll want to tilt the camera. So otherwise you would be like looking at like your own feet or something. Okay. So they try to tilt the camera for you, and that it doesn't take a lot of change in movement for it to trigger my motion sickness. Okay. Like I've got it pretty bad.
Interesting. So if it's a stationary area, you're okay, right? And if you control the movement, you're okay.
Like Beat Saber, I can do Beat Saber to the end of time.
Okay.
That one's totally fine. But if there's moving, less good.
Interesting. Okay. That's good to know. I love thinking about this kind of stuff because it's still such a new space, you know, and I personally feel rather confident that even people that do have issues with like the motion sickness part of it, we can tailor experiences that still work for them, right? Like you said, Beat Saber's fine for you, right? So, but there needs to be some kind of like, hey, this is okay for these kind of people. This isn't okay for these kind of people. Like something that, so you know when you go into it that it's going to be okay. But it takes people thinking about it, you know?
And I will say, people, if you do find yourself getting motion sick in a video game, don't keep playing. Give yourself a break. I have heard anecdotally from a lot of people, including myself, that if you try to like power through it, you'll just start getting motion sicker sooner next time. It's like, you would think playing more would make it, if you start to get nauseous, would make you used to it. but there's something that if you are already nauseous and you keep playing, your body just gets to that point quicker next time. So as soon as you start feeling, as soon as you start feeling nauseous, you should stop immediately. Don't try to power through it, because it'll just make it worse next time you go to play.
So in this case, the getting used to it is your body understanding I'm going to get sick, so I'm just going to go ahead and get sick. Like, you know, like that's really
your body
interesting.
Just jumped ahead, and it was just like, oh, I already know where we're going. Vomit town.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anyone say that. That's really interesting. Okay.
So I think it's all the people I know that experience it, we all also get car sick in the back seat of cars. And so I don't know if there's some like connection there, but also if you're the type of person who gets a little dizzy in the back seat of a car, gets car sick, like you'll probably also get motion sickness in video games.
Okay. What was next? You knew you had to move on, right? Like VR is not for you. Or at least at this stage, you knew it wasn't for you. What was your next step? And people are always curious about this, because whenever you look to move to a new job, and especially if you don't like have to leave, kind of what's that like? You're putting feelers out. What were you looking for?
Yeah, so for me, it was definitely, I didn't have to go anywhere. Like I probably could have made VR work if I really wanted to, but like my job was safe. And so I really just got to spend time talking to other game devs in the area and seeing what they liked about their studios, their culture, literally figuring out like, does this seem like a healthy place to work? You know, because a lot of like not all studios have good studio culture, right?
Yeah.
I did. I got to put out those feelers and kind of see like what felt like it had the like the vibe that I wanted.
Yeah.
And
isn't that a great place to be in? When you you can take your time, you can find the place you want to go. It takes a little while to get there, but it feels really nice when you get to do that.
Oh, it was. And then I ended up going to PlayStation. I had a couple of friends that worked there. Max that I had started working there at this point, and I had already met most of the team and had met the boss, and I like
the boss is in Dave Perry or like
no. So I did. First off, I love Dave Perry. He's an amazing human being who actually deeply cares about accessibility.
He sure does. Yeah.
So no, it was oh my god, what is Ryan's last name? I can't believe I'm blanking on this. Facebook, tell me.
I do this all the time. Don't feel bad.
Ryan Breed. Ryan Breed, who was the VP of Gaikai at the time, which was the organization within PlayStation. So Gaikai made a game streaming service, and then PlayStation bought them. And then for a long time, they still identified as Gaikai, even though they were owned by the PlayStation org. And then later, actually, it was, I think the week I left was the week that they reorged and officially, like, we're not standalone Gaikai, but PlayStation. But yeah, I ended up going to Gaikai to work on PlayStation Now. And it was a big change, but like a really fun team. And I got to work on some stuff that was a lot more technical than a lot of other things I'd got to work on, which was fun. And I mean, cloud streaming was brand new.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it was an amazing space to be in, to be like the first cloud streaming service.
Yeah. That's really interesting, because I remember when I first heard about it, Gaikai is how it's pronounced, right? Mm-hmm. Is that right? Yeah. When I first heard about it, I was like, all right, where are we going with this? Like, is this going to be the thing? Like, are we really at a place where this is going to work? And everything I was started to see, I was like, all right, this looks pretty promising.
It was really cool tech to work on, and especially being there. So I think the service had launched for PS3 titles at the time, but it definitely didn't have PS4 titles in it when I started, because that launched while I was there. And literally, like, sitting down and watching these engineering teams like solve problems that literally no one had ever had to solve before was fascinating. And then we got to like deal with a whole bunch of like unique groups, and like there's some amazing things about, you know, these streaming capabilities. Like, you know, you can not own a PlayStation, you know, you just get the PlayStation Now app on your PC, and you can have a really, really crappy, you could have a netbook and run PlayStation Now, and as long as you have good internet, like you're going to be able to get all of that. And, you know, now Game Pass has followed up, and now there's Amazon Luna, there's Google State, like everything that has come since then. Like it's a really cool space.
Yeah, no, it really is. And like I identified early that I'm not the audience. Like I've never been someone who wants to like stream something from my phone or whatever. I want to sit like and actually play it on my console or whatever, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it and understand it, right? Like, and it's a super cool and great business model. And like for, I think a large amount of people is the way to go. Like you can have almost nothing hardware wise and be able to experience something at a high level. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that was really impressive. And then honestly, one of the things that I loved most was being able to game in places, and this kind of goes for like all of the streaming services, like being able to game in places where I normally wouldn't be able to game. Like, you know, my brother still lives in St. Louis, and when I go to visit my brother, like I'm not gonna lug my, you know, Xbox Series X monstrosity fridge with me to St. Louis, right? But like if I just have my laptop with me and I can pack a controller, and then I can still play all of those games without literally having that huge piece of hardware. For me, it's also not an all the time thing. It's like a situational thing where I can take advantage of it. But you know, for other people, it is the easiest way to get a hold of these games and the most cost efficient.
Yeah. And it's funny because whenever I think about it, like if I were that gamer, what I would want is the cheapest hardware with the biggest screen, right? So like imagine like some kind of Chromebook or something that like doesn't have a whole lot of processing power, but gives me some real estate. But all of the you know, the processing and backend is happening out in the cloud. And then now I get to just, you know, basically experience it on wherever I am. That is a super cool, like that's the future, right? In a lot of ways. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, I definitely agree there.
So what was that like? So did you go there for that technology? Is that like you went there to do that?
No, I went there for the team because I really liked the team. And I liked their work-life balance. I liked their benefits. I liked everyone that I met. So I really went there because I just wanted to work with those people. And then I was there, and I mean, obviously I knew something about PlayStation Now. You know, my husband had been working on it, but it became so much easier to work on after, like, when you get in there and you start learning about it and you're like, yo, this is so cool. Like once I actually realized what was happening, I was just like, this is great. Oh my goodness. And I got pumped after I was there. But initially, yeah, I was looking for a team I wanted to be on.
Okay.
And that wasn't VR. Like those were the two requirements. Like I wanted a team and I wanted it to not be a VR title. That was it.
I mean, it's important to understand that about yourself, and that's
I knew what I wanted.
No, and that's really good. Like I said before, like being able to pick kind of where you're going to go next is, in this industry, we're not afforded that very often, where we're like not like, oh no, I need a new job, right? Like that happens a lot. It's rare that we're like, you know what, I think I want to do something different. What's out there? You know, it takes a little while to get to that point. And so that's exciting. That's good. So, how long did you work on that part on the Gaikai's type stuff?
I was there a year.
Okay.
And then I ended up coming to Xbox.
So wait, now during that year, what was your focus? Was it an accessibility focus, or like what were you doing like on the actual product? Or can you say?
Yeah, so I had okay, so my part of my job was all related. So I was actually the technical project manager for the cloud team, which obviously on a streaming service is important.
That is important. Yes.
So literally working with a team, building the guts behind the surface that you saw, as well as internal tools. So that was part of my job. And then the other part of my job was partnering with our leadership. I was able to spin up an accessibility, I don't remember what we called it, but like an accessibility committee to both work on making our internal tools, because we built a lot of tools for ourselves and other parts of PlayStation, to make those more accessible, but also to work on making PlayStation Now more accessible. And then forming the connections with the larger PlayStation org to try to like figure out how to like feed accessibility into them and vice versa.
Okay.
So like there was like at PSX, which was like the PlayStation conference that used to happen, like I got to be on a panel about accessibility in terms of PlayStation, because at PlayStation at the time there wasn't like an accessibility role that wasn't like a lawyer telling you how to be legally compliant with something.
Okay.
So it was a weird split. So I was doing this technical project management for cloud work. I was spinning up like cultural changes within PlayStation, and then working to try to, you know, push our products and stuff in the larger org to be more accessible as well.
Okay. And then, so you did that, you said, for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of got to the point where you're like, I need to now think about something else?
So I wasn't actually. I was quite content. I was happy, and Xbox came after me.
Oh,
Yeah. So
that's
Xbox
a really good feeling.
That is it. It was a great feeling.
Yeah.
You know, Xbox was investing both in accessibility, and they had just launched a program called Gaming for Everyone. See my T-shirt. And
Nice.
Gaming for Everyone is all about making sure that all these underrepresented communities have a space in game development that they feel welcome. Like literally, we're about making Xbox a great place to work for these groups, with the theory that like if we can get attain and attract these amazing talented individuals from these minority groups, they'll be embedded in the teams, they'll be part of the process, they'll be considered as part of the process, and then it will result in more inclusive, better products.
Okay.
And they had spun that up, and alongside that they were also doing recruiting from all of those underrepresented groups. So like as a woman who works in accessibility, I kind of had like a big old target, like that one. Yeah, they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we know you're going to be at GDC. Like we have Gaming for Everyone events. We're going to have some recruiters. We're going to do interviews. So like, we would love it if you would come talk to us. And so, yeah, I went and I interviewed with them, and they were like, okay, here's the deal. We'd love for you to come join us. You can also have a spot on Mixer. Like you can come be a gaming and disability community lead. And I thought long and hard about it, because I was very happy at PlayStation. You know, my husband and I were happy in Southern California. And after, you know, talking with the team, and really the Gaming for Everyone program is like the single thing that tipped the scales for me. Like if it had just been between Mixer and PlayStation Now, I don't know that I would have left PlayStation. But the Gaming for Everyone program, and like being told like you'll have a budget to make cool accessibility or disability community swag if you want, I was just like, oh man, like the word budget, right? Like we will give you money to literally, like, you want to print shirts that say like nothing about us without us, cool, yeah, give them to everyone at Xbox. Like it was like that stuff, and I was just like, ooh, that sounds nice though.
Yeah.
And so I decided to take it. But like I cannot stress how much I love my PlayStation team so much. I literally cried when I went to give my boss my 2 weeks because I went to tell him I'd gotten this offer, and I hadn't even, I think, like officially decided like if I was putting in my 2 weeks or going to let him counter. But I was just telling him like, hey,
you
know, this is what the other, like Xbox has this program, and I get to go work on this program. And you know, then I'm getting like emotional because I don't want to leave PlayStation. He's just like, you need to go do that program. Like, PlayStation's not giving that to you. Like
that's awesome.
You will have a bigger impact. Like I will miss you. You know that I love working with you, but like no, like that's where you belong. You go. And
Wow.
then yeah.
So now, was this was your boss you were talking to?
Yeah, this was my boss.
So that's, first of all, that's incredible, right? Like this is a boss that understands who you are, what you want, where your best place is, and encouraged you because they knew this was something that was right for you.
Mhm.
Kudos to them, first of all. But man, that's great, right? Like that's for man, and I'm like you. I would have done the same thing. Like I don't know. Like I want to kind of like, here's what I'm being presented with. Like, is there a chance we can do this here? Like I love being here. Like that's a tough discussion to have. So it's really nice that they were like, you know what, that's going to be the best thing for you. Good luck. You know, that's awesome. That's very good.
Yeah, it was great. And then, working on Mixer, I absolutely loved working on Mixer, and we got to do some really great stuff. I was in charge of accessibility at Mixer, and I also just got to do a bunch of feature work, and I got to work on programming. I got to get to work on everything, but Mixer didn't make it. But in a weird way, it all still worked out because Xbox was basically. I mean, this happens like every other week. Xbox was going through a reorg, as they always do, and they were changing the accessibility team to make a larger investment and spin up all of this extra, not extra, like a lot of companies, when they approach accessibility, like the first place that they go is literally legal compliance. But you can be legally compliant and not accessible, especially in the gaming space.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of where the Xbox accessibility program had existed previously. And then after this change and shift, they're like, no, we're going to do more. Like we're going to hire more people. We're going to change this team up. We're going to invest in new resources. And like that just happened to like coincide with Mixer closing. And so like basically the guy who is now my boss's boss just came over and was like, hey, I've heard your name. Mixer, it's closed, but we'd love to have you. I mean, sure, you could go work on the Xbox app if you wanted, but we all know what you want to do. You want to do accessibility. It's written all over your face.
Sure is.
And here we are. That's it.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy sell, right?
Yeah.
So what did this new role look like? Like what was the promise of the new role? Like what brought you in there?
What was really great about the promise of the new role was it didn't make too many promises. It was just like, you know more about the space than I do, so I promise that we'll follow your lead, and I'll trust you when you say that we're doing something wrong. And I was like, son of a bitch, I'm in.
I love the point, the double point. My man.
My man. Looking good. And so, yeah, I got to come over and like immediately I got to fix some things that were just broken in terms of like accessibility or stuff or pipelines of stuff. And then, I really like that I can make larger cultural changes at Xbox. As I mentioned, when I was at PlayStation, one of the things I got to do was kind of make this accessibility committee, which touched all of these different areas. And I was like, hey, look, right now, like we have our gaming accessibility team, but like if someone wants to learn more about accessibility or connect with other people or make their product better, like they can send us an email. I was like, we need like a champs program. So like you get recognized, you get swag, you get monthly training, you get to have your moment to grow and be better and then get recognized for it. And then also like we have a really handy email list if like something's been updated and we just need at least one person on every team to know. And so like that's one of the things that I'm spinning up right now. That's probably my biggest project is like spinning up this Xbox wide program for literally getting people invested and trained and empathetic to accessibility.
Man, that's so there's been a recurring theme here, right? Which is the places you seem to excel is where you're allowed to identify problems and fix them, right? And with a very specific frame of mind of accessibility, right? So every time you're like, you know what? They're like, hey, you're good at this. We need to get better at this. Come own it. And you're like, yeah, I'll own that. Like, let me come do that. And it seems to be working out okay. So that's good, right?
No, I mean, I like to think so. And then really some of the things that I've been loving recently is like other non-gaming teams have been, by non-gaming, I mean like not game development teams, but still within Xbox. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we have GameStack Live coming up, and that team has been working hard. So like, you know, all of the videos, like they're all going to have ASL as part of the videos. Like we've been doing testing on the website to make sure that it works well with screen readers. And like, so these other parts of Xbox are now like, okay, well, they're being accessible. I want to be accessible too, which is also really sweet.
So we're now with you talking about new position. You kind of, now you've got your budget. You get to like really focus on the thing that you love, what you want to do. What was tell us about your like first week doing this new thing at Xbox.
So the first week was actually really absurd. So I came in right as they were like, okay, we're going to adjust this team. We're going to figure stuff out. They hadn't hired the person who would be my boss yet to like run this new organization. So basically I got hired and they're like, we're not accessibility people. So you know more about this space than we do. So like you just do stuff and we'll hire you a boss eventually. So the first week was, it was literally just like I was off leash and did whatever I wanted.
So that's awesome and terrifying. So so what did you do in the first week? And now I assume the first week was a bit of like, let me get acclimated, let me kind of get my feel. Who were you like interacting with? Like what kind of things were you doing?
So the first week, so there was one person who already worked in the Xbox accessibility team from like when it was just compliance stuff. And I was actually already friends with him, so I already knew him. We were in talks of picking up a vendor who I actually also already knew. And so like I kind of knew like the two people, it's expanded since then, but like the two people I'd immediately be working with, I already knew. And they kind of like told me like, well, these are the projects that are in flight, but we don't have anything immediately that's like that you would work on because we're still just figuring this out. So here are some ideas. And I was just like, well, things that I think I should work on. Well, none of our marketing stuff is accessible. Like I'll start there. I'm like, oh, you know what? I should talk to our studios folks and learn who we've got doing testing over there. So I just kind of started picking people to talk to and kind of figuring out what was going on. And then, and then I was just immediately like, what are some simple things that I basically went after things that had annoyed me, that I had seen like as an Xbox customer that I was like, I'm going to fix this because that thing annoys me.
That's great. That's perfect, right? I love it. All right. I have to do a quick aside here. Would you like to talk about any of your tattoos? I'm a big fan.
I have so many. Well, you guys already saw the Diva tattoo.
Yeah, that was mentioned in the chat. Yep.
So I love Overwatch, but I also love like Diva specifically because you know she was a female pro gamer, and then there were even like marches and stuff that were happening in Korea at the time, like women's right marches that were using like Diva symbol as like the symbol, which was great. I have a teacup on my arm, so I'm a huge tea drinker. I drink tea constantly, but I'm also half English. Like I'm actually like an English citizen. Like I have a passport, and so for me, it's like the biggest influence my English family has had on me is like this weird obsession with tea that I have. And so one of the times that I went to England, I got my teacup tattoo.
You got it there. Okay, nice.
I got it in England, which has made it a bitch to get touched up. I was actually going to be getting it. I was going back for a conference last year, and I was going to get it touched up because there's some like just parts that didn't heal quite well, which, you know, I'm sure what happens when you fly internationally with a fresh tattoo.
Sure.
I'm sure that airplane air wasn't great for healing.
Yeah, it doesn't help. Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna get it touched up, and then obviously COVID. So
yeah.
Let's see. Oh, this one. So I'm a huge beer drinker, and I love stouts. And there's this beer festival in Astoria, Oregon, called Festival of the Dark Arts, and it's all about stouts, porters, like really dark beers. But it also has like tattooing and belly dancing and tarot reading and ice carving and metalworking and this was one of the last things I did before COVID, because this happened. I got this February of last year.
Right before the fall.
Yeah, at the festival. They have basically like they had two different things. They either had a sheet that you could get tattoos off of, or they also had and Max got one of these, like essentially like a gumball machine, like of tattoos. And
really,
he got a frog, because a frog that I named Hops. We were at a beer festival.
That's a great name. Yeah. Well, you know, barley is named after the beer ingredient. That's literally why I named him that. So.
Oh,
yeah.
see, look.
But also, his name is actually Barlaman Butterbur. That's his like AKC. For those that get that reference, I'll leave that out there. But anyway, so all right. So one other thing I have to ask you before we've got about 10 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people leading up to this asked about the Microsoft Accessibility Controller.
Yes.
And so can you talk about, like, I know that you have been in interviews. Yeah, there it is. Like talking about it. Tell us about like any involvement you had in that, and kind of like how, because that is, whenever I think of that controller, I think of you, right? Because like those things kind of like are in my mind together. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of what your involvement has been with that.
So this controller was super. So I want to say that this was like a years long process. And funny enough, early on before I worked at Xbox, I was part of groups that Xbox was getting feedback from without quite knowing what they were getting feedback about. Like what are the challenges of gamers with disabilities? And they were asking all of these people that work in the accessibility field about that, as well as working with a ton of amazing charities like Special Effect in the UK and Able Gamers and Warfighter Engaged here in the US. And they'd made like a hackathon, which is something that we have every year, made like what looks nothing like this at all, but like was the predecessor to this, made a controller. And they were iterating on it. And by the time that I joined Xbox, I remember, so there's a guy named Bryce Johnson, he is like the dad of the Xbox controller. Like if you're picturing someone, when you think of the adaptive controller, you should really picture Bryce, because it was his baby.
Sorry, say the name again. Bryce
Johnson.
Okay.
Let me find his Twitter and I'll drop it in the chat for everyone. So Bryce and I had been friends. He's a designer. He's a really amazing guy. And he basically was just like, when he heard I interviewed, like every day, he was like, Tara, you hired yet? Tara, have you signed paperwork? Tara, there's something I want to tell you about, but like, it's super secret. Like, Tara, like, get a job here. Sign the paperwork so I can't tell you. And then as soon as I came up here for something, like I had paperwork signed, I didn't think I was living here yet. And he was like, Tara, let me give you the tour. Also, let me show you this prototype. And he walked me through it. Would you guys like a walkthrough and all the details? How much do you want to hear about it?
I want to hear all about it.
Okay, so he showed me something that looked very, very similar to this. So this is actually also a demo unit, not a retail unit, but you can see like how close this was to the final one. but he showed me something looked very similar to this. And the biggest thing is, so across the top are all of these 3mm jack points. And
I
you can
did
see
not
that
know about that. Okay. Yeah.
So each, oh, I have it upside down. Each one of them is labeled with a different
Yeah.
input.
Yeah.
So what was happening was gamers with disabilities would need to put switches and controls in different spots.
Okay.
And, or they would need a larger button. I don't think I have right here. Oh, I do. And so, like, let's say that I needed a big button like this, but I'm using a regular Xbox controller. I would crack this open, therefore voiding my warranty, and like solder this into here somehow so I could play. And then that's what people were doing all the time.
Man.
And since we found out, basically, what people were wanting to do was take the assistive tech devices they already had, like giant buttons like this, or finger switches, or anything else, and connect them into a controller. We were like, well, they just take these jack points. Like, why don't we literally just make a controller where you could just plug that stuff in? And so, like, that was what was made. Like that's it. We also have
give them the ability to do the thing they're trying to do, right? Like that's.
Yeah, that's literally it. It was that simple. It's just like, well, what are people doing? Well, they're taking their controller parts so that they can solder in these switches. Oh, well, let's just give them plugs for switches. Like, that was it. And then I came on after, like I said, like this was almost in its final form by the time I joined Xbox. And how I got started in this project, Bryce came to me and he was just like, Tara, you're deeply connected with this community, and we're looking for more people for take-home testing. Because basically, to make sure that it was going to work for these gamers and all of the assistive tech that they were using, we literally needed them to like, hey, you're set up at home, like just try this out, tell if it works, if it doesn't work, all of that stuff, and then we'll make updates based on it. And so I was part of the team that was getting people into that take-home testing program and collecting their feedback, and then getting that back to the hardware team that kept making revisions until you get what you see today. And some of the stuff we did is really simple. Like, the whole thing is white except for the back, which is black. And the reason the back is black is we kept finding it's really common for people to take like black Velcro tape and stuff and stick it on the bottom so that it can mount it easily.
Okay.
But then it looks kind of like janky when you have like something all white with a bunch of black tape on the bottom. But if it's already black and you put black tape on it, like, it looks way better. So we're like, oh, well, it'll just literally look better if we make the bottom black instead of white. So like, we even made little changes like that.
Oh my gosh.
There's this great, he didn't even tweet it that long ago. One of the things we did was change the shape of the controller. So as you can see now, this is slanted. This isn't a complete square.
Oh, yeah.
And that was directly from feedback that we were getting from people, because having that edge, because a lot of people were like resting on it, having that edge like hurt people if they played for a long period of time.
Okay.
So yeah, Bryce had literally tweeted a couple days ago a older demo version of this thing where he was drawing on the sides to figure out like where they should cut pieces off to give it a better ergonomic shape for gamers.
Oh my gosh. So I can't tell you how much I love this. So we only have 5 minutes left. So how would you feel about coming back on to talk about literally just like this specific topic, and like how we need to get better and the kind of things we have now and where we're going? Like, I feel like we could do a whole other episode on literally just like the mentality and like focusing specifically on accessibility and how we can like accommodate for people.
I'm ready. We didn't even touch on the social model versus medical model of disability yet, and why we at Microsoft use the social model or the work that we do to make Xbox a more accessible place for our employees. Like, I mean, look, Jameson, I can talk about this for like literally forever. Oh no, you want me to come talk about that thing that I love more? Oh, I mean, I guess like.
All right. If I'm twisting your arm, I guess. Okay, cool. Then as soon as we're done with this, you and I are going to talk about another time to like literally just dig in and be like, let's talk about this specific topic, because I I super appreciate and understand and feel, very much like this is something that needs to be discussed way more openly. And you are absolutely the most prominent advocate I know for this. So I think this will be an absolutely great conversation for us to dig into a little bit more. And I wish we had more time. So, but yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll figure out a time. Awesome. All right. So in the meantime, though, if people would like to reach out to you to talk about this or get to know you a little bit better, what's the best way for them to do that?
Really, I'm super active on Twitter, so check me out on Twitter, and you'll be able to. I post a lot of accessibility related stuff, but also spoilers. I do also tweet about beer, my cats, and currently it's a lot of like Yakuza Like a Dragon. So you'll get whatever video game I'm obsessed with at the time in there as well. But I'm active on there, and pretty much any resource or information I have, I normally funnel back out into my Twitter. So even if it's not a resource that I have, like I will post about it on my Twitter to try to amplify that. So you can both get to know me more, but also maybe find some other accessibility advocates or gamers or specialists with disabilities who could follow and also teach you something awesome.
I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. So that I think this is a good place for us to wrap up for the night. I thank you so much for joining me. This has been absolutely amazing. I learned a lot, and I'm super excited for us to even think about what we're going to talk about next time. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Can't wait till next time.